What else you want to talk about?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about, Marge? What? Huh? What?
Are you talking to me?
Marge is a very humble person, but I tell you what, she works her butt off, and she's like, I can't even tell you how grateful I am that she came into my life. And before I met Margie, I was managing the band by myself, and I was doing, I was doing a good job or whatever. But Margie is like 10 times smarter than me, and so when she got involved, it really, really was great, and it's been great ever since. And it's wonderful to have a partner, and she's believed in the band and in my music from day one. And I'm so fortunate because I've known over the years so many great musicians who will get married or whatever, and their significant other doesn't want them to be in a band anymore, and they end up giving it up, or they bitch at them all the time and say, "Why are you spending money doing that? You're not a rock star yet. You're not signed. Blah blah blah." Margie has never done that. From day one, she supported the band and worked very hard for it, and I'm really, really very fortunate.
Now you have to invest in what you believe in, and you just keep doing it. Most bands give up too quick. I've watched bands over the course of doing this now for almost 25 years, and throughout my life, and I'm an old broad. But I've watched a lot of bands give up. It's like 2 years in, they didn't get what they thought they were going to get. Everybody didn't recognize their greatness instantly, and they break up. And instead of staying together long enough to figure out what they actually have, because it takes a long time for musicians to gel. Once in a while, you'll get those, those maiden magic heaven, oh my God, these guys all belong together groups. But generally, it takes a lot of work to create a band out of 4 or 5 individual people that come into it with their own goals, their own music in their heads, and then if they don't become wonderful immediately, they figure they're a failure, or everybody tells them they're a failure, or they're too impatient, or they didn't get laid, or whatever, and the band breaks up.
Yeah.
So then they move on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and they never even get a chance to really develop their sound and who they are.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
Huh.
Got to stay together.
Damn.
Stay together, work hard, show up, get in a fight, get mad, punch each other out, get a black eye, and then show up at the next rehearsal. Because it's like a family, it's like a family at Thanksgiving dinner,
Yeah.
Once in a while, everybody gets pretty pissed. But you get pissed, and then you show back up again at the next rehearsal.
Yeah.
Because you got to value your product more than that. It's not just about your part in it. A band is made up of a band of musicians. So you have to. My job, I figure, the way I look at it is, I'm there to protect Saint Madness, and I always laugh and say, even from its own members sometimes. And because as we all know, we can all be pretty self-destructive every once in a while, and we all say shit we didn't mean, or we only meant when we were that mad, and
Yeah.
and so yeah, go ahead, do that, punch each other out, say bad words, and then show up.
Yeah.
And you might find that you actually can make pretty good music together, and you get a maturity in that music that you didn't have at the 1 year mark, and it just don't quit.
Yeah.
Don't quit your band.
Well, and once again, it comes down to why a person's in music to begin with, and for me, the music is number one, and gosh, we've had a number of people in St. Madness over the years, kind of like Megadeth, that they've gone through a number of changes. We've gone through changes over the years as well. Now, for me, every single one of those changes ended up working out good, because that's how we ended up with 11 albums. And yet, if you put all those albums together, and if you mix them up like on my iPod, all the albums are on there, and then I hit shuffle, and it'll go through all different songs from different albums, and it all sounds like Saint Madness. We managed to do that. It didn't matter who was playing in the group. when you put all those songs together, it sounds exactly like Saint Madness. And part of that is because, of course, it had the same vocalist and lyricist, but it also had the same drummer on like 7 of the albums or 8 of the albums. And if we get a new guitarist, we explain to them that they have to play through Mesa Boogies because Mesa Boogie is our sound. And on bass, our sound is Ampeg. And so if someone joins the band, they have to understand and agree right off the bat that they're going to play, Ampeg or Mesa Boogie. And by doing that, we've managed to keep our sound all these years because if you had a new guitarist come in and he goes, hey, I've got, 2 stacks of Fenders, and then you record an album with stacks of Fenders,
yeah.
then your next album you record with Marshalls, and then the next one, what have you. When you go to make a best of record, it's kind of difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult to get all those sounds mastered together and have them work cohesively as a best of record.
Right.
Well, in our case, because everything's Mesa Boogies, and it's Ampeg, and it's the same drummer on most of it and the same vocalist, we've been able to maintain that sound.
Nice.
Continuity.
Yeah, continuity. That's a great word.
Absolutely. Damn.
Yeah, and tone, everything's a part of it. You bet.
And I'm a real forgiving person. Look, I can have an argument with, anybody, and, they can say horrible shit to me or about me. But if they come to me later and they apologize or they say, man, I'm sorry, I don't, know why I said those things. But, if they're truly, sorry for it or whatever, I'll forgive anybody. You've got to hurt my family or my pets in order for me to get to a place where I'm not going to forgive you. But, if it's just over stupid words or argument or something dumb like that, I'll forgive pretty much anything. Life's too short, and I love my friends, and there are no former band members on any of our albums that I'm not friends with to this day, and that I wouldn't give a big hug every time I run into them.
That's awesome. There's a lot of that doesn't ever happen like that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just not sensitive like that. I've got thick skin, and if you're going to be in music and you're going to put it out there to be criticized by critics at magazines or radio stations or whatever, you've got to have thick skin, because there's nothing like pouring your heart and soul into a record and saying to yourself, man, this is the best record I've ever had or been a part of, and then you send it out and the reviewer says, this is the worst piece of crap I've ever heard in my life. You've got to be able to shrug that off.
Yeah.
Or laugh it off,
Yeah.
And we've had some pretty amazing bad reviews over the years, and Marge and I still laugh about them, because some of these people will get so mad that they'll spend 4 columns describing how mad they are at us because they listen to our record, and that just cracks me up. And again, that's part of shock metal or whatever, you get a reaction out of them.
Nice.
My very favorite of all was a reviewer who said the musicians may be able to play their instruments well, but that just makes this well-played shit music. Wow. They get so creative when they get descriptive like that.
And you know what? If someone gives us a bad review, a terrible review in the magazine or whatever, I'll write them a very nice thank you email. Yeah. And I say, look, I was hoping you'd like the record, but I understand that different people like different things. But I appreciate very much that you gave us the press. And I've had people write me back and say, wow, man, that's never happened before. Usually if I put a bad review out there, the band writes the go fuck yourself email, but I just won't do that because, number one, if someone doesn't like your product and they really put it down, the more angry you become, the more they win.
Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah.
And number two is, look, they did give you press, and, not everybody in this world can possibly love what you do. So there's always a chance that when you send it out, someone's going to say it's crap. Well, that's the chance you take. And if you're going to be in music, you've got to have thick skin. You can't get overly pissed off over all this stuff and say, I'm going to quit and I'm going to, whatever, I'm in music for me first. I
Yeah.
write songs to make myself happy first. And if I'm happy with the music I made, then I understand there are going to be people out there who just don't like it for whatever reason, or they just don't like me for whatever reason. And that's okay. There's an old saying out there, what people say about me behind my back is none of my business.
That's true. It really is. But it's kind of funny.
Yeah, hours of entertainment sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what
But
you
at the end
said
of the
there,
day,
though, that has to go true pretty much with anybody in any kind of entertainment.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you do. I've had people
no,
tell me that my show
If you're a
sucks.
hater.
You know,
right. In your field of work, you got a lot of competition. You got a lot of people out there, making radio stations and so forth. It's no different than being in a band.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of like I was
But
telling
if you do,
somebody. It's like trying to fill the same venue 7 days a week.
yeah, absolutely.
It gets kind of hard.
I love your gift files that you send out to announce your show. I really enjoy every one of them.
Yeah, I try to make that a little unique, so it makes at least
They're
something
fun.
different.
No, it's fun.
Yeah.
I love your Jason yesterday. That was
Oh
amazing.
yeah, that was cool.
And I think it's a great idea. And I'll be honest with you, I don't see a ton of stations doing that. And the first time you sent one like that, I was like, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, I just kind of went through and found some. I think the ones that I really dig were like the old 30s like Disney cartoons
Mm-hmm.
because they were just downright evil. They're like down in hell and they're following the devil around and it's like
Oh,
wow,
that's my favorite cartoons, man.
yeah,
We're gonna
they're so
blow it out of
funny.
you.
They're pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, and see, you found a creative way to utilize that. And that's what I'm saying, that when we were talking about the good and the bad of the internet and all that, okay,
Yeah,
now, a person like yourself, you can build your own station and you can figure out, okay, how do I promote this and how do I make my show different than other shows? And how do I get people to want to turn it on?
yeah,
And it's very much like being in a band, and music is, whether people like it or not, a popularity contest. That's just the way it is.
yeah,
And of course, the more popular you are, the more successful you become, and that's just the way it is. Music is also very political. And it would be nice. Like when I started in music, I thought, if you work hard and you sing from your heart, you do this, Mr. Record Man's going to show up and you're going to get signed and you're going to, make all this money and you're going to be great. And, sometimes it isn't like that, and you have to accept that that's just the nature of the business. Some people will bust their ass till they die and never make much money.
yeah,
Other people who can't hardly play their instruments will walk into the right situation at the right time, and all of a sudden they're on RCA records and they're making all this money. So you really never know. It's a crapshoot.
yeah,
To the draw.
yeah, exactly. In the right place
But
at the
again,
right
I'm
time.
in it. I'm in it to make records that I would go out and buy.
Yeah,
And when I produce a record, that's what's on my mind is, okay, I'm a metal fan. If I was in a metal store, I saw this album cover and I heard a song from this record, would I buy this record? So I try to make records that I love, that I would go buy.
yeah, absolutely. I remember the days where you'd be going to the record store, and you just flipping through the records, just looking at the covers. You don't even know who the band is, but you look at the cover. It's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy this just because the cover kicks ass.
Absolutely. And that's
uh,
one of those things that's kind of becoming lost nowadays.
yeah,
Now, a band like Jane's Addiction, for instance, they always had this really trippy artwork that went along with their band. And after a while, you kind of knew them for not only their music, but the artwork that accompanied it. And I never forgot that when I saw that. And for me, our artwork is extremely important. And when we make a booklet for the CD, it's extremely important to me that it looks very cool and it makes you want to flip through it and whatnot.
yeah,
I enjoy all those aspects of the business. I enjoy producing as well as singing and writing. and I enjoy working with the artists, and I enjoy planning the stage shows and buying different banners and having different light shows, and I enjoy every aspect of the business.
Very cool. Not very many. There's not a whole lot of them. A lot of artists out there that can say they do that. You know.
I don't know anything else, Dan. I'll be honest. From the time I was doing Elvis in high school, it was on my mind.
Yeah.
And I would watch bands that were successful, and I'd try to learn about how they learned to do what they do. And when I was young and I started promoting shows, I would go out, like, the first show I ever fully promoted on my own was in 1983 in California. I had a brand new band called Abatron, and we were doing a benefit for the LA World Hunger Tell event. And I rented out this 500-seater hall, and we were a virtually unknown band. And so what I did was I found out who the most popular heavy metal band in the area at the time was, and they were a band called Airtight Rock. So I contacted Airtight Rock, and they had been around 10 years already. Everybody knew who they were. And I said, "Look, you guys, I'm doing this show. It's a benefit, and my band is headlining it, and I would love to have you guys on it." And I said, "I'll give you $250 to play like an hour." And back in 1983, $250 to play a show like that was good money. So they took the money. Well, I knew that if I got Airtight Rock to open for us, they were going to have a lot of fans show up, and we had a chance of winning those fans over. And so Airtight Rock signed up, and then I immediately contacted all the newspapers. At the time, I was living up in San Ynez Valley in California. And you might have even heard of it, a place called Solvang, California. And it's close to Santa Barbara, Lompoc, where Vandenberg Air Force Base is, Santa Maria. And so I contacted all those local newspapers. I sent them photographs of the band. I told them what we were doing. I contacted all the radio stations. Every single one of them either put write-ups about the event in their papers or talked about it on the radio. And we ended up selling out the show. And that was my first promoted concert ever. But we sold it out. We sold every single ticket.
Nice.
You're a very good promoter.
I just watch what the people do that are successful.
Yeah.
And you read about them.
I read everything. I love to read. So I study. I read a lot of books on artists, musicians, and I'll read everything, from Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley to Pantera. I read about everybody. I don't care who it is. I read Keith Richards' book and I loved it. And I love to read, and all these books, they give away little secrets that they used in the recording studio or when they were on tour, or how I read all the Kiss books, all of their books, and they talked about how they went from basically having nothing and putting on face paint and changing their look a little and different things that they tried, and I learned from all that.
Yeah. You guys are doing an awesome job.